Good evening. Welcome to the latest live review show from Last Bell Boxing. Joined by regulars, as always, Harrison. Welcome to the show, mate.
Well, thank you, Andy. Good to see you.
Daz, new location in your house. Welcome to the show, pal.
Looking all right, mate? All good.
And Hawkan from his hotel room in Sheffield, following the 2 nights he's had GBM and Matchroom. Welcome, mate.
Thank you, Andy.
Right, let's crack right on, boys. I think there's only one place we can start. We need to go across the pond. Even though we've had 3 big shows in the UK this weekend, we need to go across the pond and discuss the fallout of Mikaela Mayer versus Sandy Ryan for the WBO welterweight title. Right, I think before we go on to the fight itself, which by all accounts is a barnstormer, we need to talk about what happened pre-fight. As everyone probably knows, if they've looked at anything on social media, Sandy Ryan walking out of the hotel room was attacked with by all accounts paint, but it could have been anything. How this was allowed to happen to a headlining fighter on a massive card in New York staggers me. It beggars belief that she wasn't being protected by security when she come out of the hotel. Clearly planned, clearly preordained. For what reason? Well, that's down to the police to find out. I would like to have seen something. I don't know if anything's come out. I would like to have seen something from the WBO in relation to this, because even though it didn't happen in their venue, it happened to one of their stars that at that time was the champion. So, Harrison, let's get your reaction first, mate.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into here, and it's always kind of difficult in the embryonic stages when something breaks, because you're kind of waiting for an official statement from Top Rank, from the New York Police Department and whatnot, and I'm sure there's going to be incredible aftermath to what's happened. But you've got some really fair and strong points there to start with, because I listened to an Eddie Hearn interview. I think he did it yesterday during the 5K for the for their show. And he was talking about security for fighters, how when an American or a foreign fighter comes over to a UK show, they have the security bring them from the fight hotels straight to the O2, the MEN, whatever it is. Top Rank are going to find themselves in a lot of trouble here, because for the champion on the main event to be that easy to be attacked is an absolutely astonishing sight. And the way in which she was attacked as well. She's adamant, and her team are, that it's someone from Mikaela Mayer's side. I hold complete reservation until we know a bit more about it. There's too much speculation in this sport as it is, but the breakdown of that was just incredible. How a fighter fighting downstairs in Madison Square Garden on a Friday night on an ESPN show for the biggest promoter in the United States. Astonishing to me that was able to happen, and I feel nothing but sympathy really for Sandy Ryan. I've got to commend her for actually fighting as well, because if I was in her position, or if Eddie Hearn had been over there, that fight would have been pulled. But obviously, because he was in the UK this weekend, he wasn't there to see things in depth and detail. He was probably asleep whenever it actually happened. I've got to commend her for still fighting and for keeping the show alive, because she had every right to tell the WBO, I'm not fighting in this state. It's not my position to fight here. I've not been well enough protected by you and by the promoter, so you should pull me. And we'll get into the fight in a minute, how brilliant that was. But there's so many things wrong in boxing from the top to the bottom. But fighter protection has got to be an A1 standard for the sport. Otherwise, it's just dangerous. It doesn't happen in any other sport. When Cristiano Ronaldo leaves his hotel to go and play a game of football, you can't get within about 1,000 yards of him. You've got security, police, banners, stewards, everything. It can't be allowed to happen, and it shouldn't have happened. I imagine if this had been another main event Top Rank fighter, like a Tyson Fury or something like that, would this have happened? No. It's a really bad look for the female side of boxing, and it's put a real dampener really on what was otherwise a really good event.
The thing for me is, she doesn't have a gigantic team around her, like a male main eventer probably has 20 or 30 entourage, and you know, every I Sue, you're right. every man and his dog kind of
appearance there.
Every man and his dog kind of in trail. That wouldn't have happened with Sandy Ryan. She'd have probably had 4 or 5 people at the maximum with her. Maybe just family members getting into the same car, or I mean, she was well within her rights to turn around and say, "I'm too shook up. I can't fight." But from her own words on that statement that she put out, she didn't want to give them the satisfaction. Now, I know she's pointed the finger at Mikaela Mayer, and there's no, at the moment, there's no reason to think that's the case. It's more likely to be some random, you call him a fan, but I won't call him a fan if they could do that to a boxer, but some random fan of Mikaela Mayer that wanted to give her the edge, wanted to rattle Sandy Ryan. The scary thing for me, guys, Håkan, I'll come to you, mate. The scary thing for me is this time it was paint. What happens if it wasn't paint? Håkan.
Yeah, I was shocked when I saw it, but I saw it first after the fight. So I was in shock that that's something that could happen at the hotel on her way to the fight. The security must be better for the fighters.
Absolutely, mate. Daz, you got to give Sandy Ryan credit for fighting under those circumstances. She was clearly rattled, but you've got to give her credit. But on the other hand, was it a mistake? Should she have gone, "No, I'm not fighting"?
I mean, on hindsight, I don't think. Well, yeah, I mean, probably would, but I don't personally think it was, because I actually thought she won the fight. So, but we'll get to that in a bit. A lot of there's a lot of factors I've asked myself, and the answer I've come up with to this one is I don't think it would have happened. Would it have happened if she was with Clifton still? No, because I think Clifton had been with her every step of the way. You know, as soon as she leaves her hotel room, they'd have done stuff together as trainer and fighter.
Also, Clifton's got the mindset of security with having
exactly, mate.
Having a security company himself at boxing events.
Clifton owns SAUK, so there'd have probably been a bit more security there. But then also, there probably could have been other fighters there, like Clifton's son and stuff. She'd have had a team around her, and I don't think anyone would have got near her, to be fair. I mean, personally, I'm one of them. I like to be with my fighter on fight day, not just to protect him, but let's get that mental side up. Let's get drilled in. So I think that would have been Clifton's mindset as well. But I tell you what, and all that, I think it's a bit of a significant thing as well that the fact it was red paint. Nah, people are going to probably think, what does it matter if it was yellow paint, white paint? Obviously, red paint, it's signifying blood, isn't it? That to me was a bit of an attack, as if to say, listen, this is what could have been. All this red down you could have been blood if you'd have been stabbed, or
absolutely.
Psychological ploys, mate. All psychologicals. Do you know what I mean? It's disgusting. I'm apprehensive to accuse actually Mayer of knowledge of this. I don't think Mayer needs to do things like this.
No.
I think Mayer's a good enough fighter to not have anything to do with this. And I don't know if it's just suspicion, but when she was asked about it, you sort of look at the interview and think, is she being genuine? Does she know? Does she not know? I would like to think that it's, even though it's disgusting that it's happened, I would like to think that it's just some silly fan who is just taking it on themselves to do this, like you said, Andy. But it's like as Sandy Ryan says, you know, there weren't that many people knew when she was going to be leaving the hotel.
Not only that, how many just fans would know what hotel she'd be in?
Yeah, exactly, mate. There's a lot of factors where Sandy's thinking, listen, this does not add up. Yeah. This is very, very, you know, suspicious. So, you know, you can ask yourself a lot of questions, and until it's investigated and until something comes out, which, to be honest, mate, if you're asking my honest opinion of it, I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of it. I don't think we'll ever find who it is.
Well, you can't fart in New York, mate, without being caught on CCTV. So you can't tell me that there ain't any CCTV footage.
Mate, yeah, it's not going to be that. You know, it's going to be a case of I think Sandy herself said there was covered up, hooded up. And it's a case of, you know, look at the city, look at New York, look at what goes off in New York. You know, there's a mate, and this is by no means playing down what's happened to Sandy. There's a lot more serious stuff happens in New York than someone getting red paint thrown over them. And this is going to be, it's probably going to be bottom of pile on priority.
I get you. I get what you're saying.
It should be, mate. It shouldn't be. Don't get
these drive-by shootings in New York. There's everything.
There's also
we can't even imagine goes on in New York.
No,
but this is high profile.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, I think it'd have been investigated more thoroughly had it happened to Mayer and not Sandy Ryan.
Probably.
If Mayer had been.
Go on, Håkan.
I think it's pretty easy if you want to know whether fighters are staying to find out it.
Right.
Yeah,
through social media.
I mean, that's you know, to be fair, okay, I don't really disagree with that, because as long as the fighters have got adequate security, I mean, listen, genuine fans like yourself and stuff.
Yeah.
If you know, if you've got a fighter who's your favorite fighter, listen, I'm not being funny. If I knew where Roberto Duran was staying, I'd be camping outside just to get another photo with him. Do you know what I mean? And it's just you know, that's good for the genuine fans. You know, the genuine people who support boxing.
Yes.
And things like this just ruin it. But
yeah.
Like I say, I really honestly, I do think that had it been Mayer on the receiving end, I think it would have been investigated a lot more. I'm not saying it's not going to be investigated, but and yeah, I get it's high profile, but how really high profile is it? Is Sandy Ryan that massive a name that it's going to be? You know, and listen, I'm not condoning it whatsoever. I think it's disgusting. I've been a massive fan of Sandy, and Andy, you know that.
Yeah.
You know, I think she's fantastic. I think she's a great fighter. But I just think this is going to be. I don't like to use the word swept under the carpet, but I don't think it's going to get much attention as it should. If I'm being honest,
the minimum that has to happen here, is an immediate rematch. If the WBO fail to do that, then there's some serious questions need asking.
I mean, listen, take away from what happened outside, there needs to be a rematch anyway, because it were an absolute classic. It were an unbelievable fight.
Yeah.
Really good fight. Great fight, to be fair.
Right. As you've segued into that, Daz, let's get your breakdown and your thoughts of firstly the fight itself and then how you scored it.
Well, I had first I mean, first 5 rounds is a general consensus that I'd seen. I mean, I didn't watch this fight until 3 o'clock this morning, or 3 this morning when I got in from Portsmouth. So, you know, I was...
That's a commitment for you.
Yeah. So I was like watching it, and there was a general thing that people had said that, you know, Mayer had dominated the first 5 rounds, and then Sandy had come on in the last 5. So I watched the first 5, and I actually had to rewind the first 5 and start again because I couldn't see where Mikaela Mayer dominated the first 5 rounds. I just saw maybe she shaded it 3-2. Maybe there was the odd round that could have been even in it. But then Sandy had a really good 6th. Mayer, she sort of replied, you know, listen, she's a great fighter herself, so she replied with things. But I always thought Sandy mostly had the upper hand in the last 5 rounds.
Right.
So even if, as I had it, even if it got shaded to Mikaela the first 5, 3-2 or something, I still had Sandy coming out by a round or 2. But like I said this to Harrison earlier on a Twitter comment. I can't argue with anyone who had it for Mayer by a round or 2.
Yeah.
And I can't argue with anyone who had it a draw. If I'm totally honest, it was a very close fight, and I think it come down to sometimes what you prefer. Maybe, I mean, I saw it from the point of Mayer. While she threw some eye-catching shots, some good shots, Sandy did catch him on her gloves quite a bit. Sandy landed the heavier punches for me, but then also I look and think, up close, Mayer, you know, from the point of view, I'm saying I can see why people chose Mayer. Mayer did some really good work up close. You know, Mayer worked really nice with some short shots up close, some uppercuts. And I think the thing I've come away with, mate, is, I had, to sum it up, I had Sandy Ryan by 1 or 2 rounds.
Okay.
But the biggest factor I came away with was Sandy Ryan fought on pure emotion, not game plan.
Right.
Sandy Ryan, to me, wanted to beat Mikaela Mayer up.
It could be, and do you think that had a lot to do with what happened pre-fight?
Yeah, mate, she wanted to beat her up because of what happened outside the hotel. And Sandy fought a little bit reckless at times.
Yeah.
You know, she was square on at times. You know, she took some good shots off Mikaela, but I think the main thing was Sandy wanted to beat Mikaela up. That was the thing, and it took her out of a game plan. But I look at it and think, I still think Sandy did enough, but I can see people thought Mayer and maybe a draw.
Okay.
So
official scorecards: 97-93, 96-94, and then a 95 even. Harrison, I have a feeling you're going to disagree with what Daz has just said.
No, not entirely. I mean, there's plenty of sentiments to echo there, really. And women's boxing's had more than one good advertisement in the last 2 or 3 years, but this one for me was bang up there. It was an absolute barn burner from the minute we got going. It's the joyous thing. I actually am one of those who isn't in favor of 3-minute rounds for women's boxing, purely because it forces the action so well in those 2-minute spheres where the girls really do have to go for it, and these two gave it an absolute war up. Probably the only thing I disagree with Daz there was that I had Mayer on top a little bit more considerably through the first 5 rounds, but then Sandy, I think once the emotion sort of flooded out of her body a little bit, she did start to sharpen up a little bit in the back 5, and she had some really, really good spells. And I had Sandy going up around into the 9th, but then I thought Mayer boxed a very nice 10th. It was very strange because, like, for some weird reason, I thought Mayer was going to be the bigger puncher of the two, and maybe it was the emotion that got in the way. But I thought it was Sandy who was landing the bigger punches, but that Mayer was just slightly more technical at times, not for a prolonged period, but long enough to do well in the 2-minute spells. Bob Williams' card was the same as mine. I had it dead even, 95-95. And the one word I don't want to hear when we come back to reflect on this fight in years' time is robbery, because I can't fathom that either girl was well enough ahead that you could say, oh, Sandy Ryan won that by 8 rounds to 2. She didn't. It was utterly close. If it had gone 6-4 either way, like it did for Mayer, I was okay with that. I wasn't shading it either way, and I know it's not ideal to score at a draw, but it's a 10-round fight. It's going to happen. It was really good. I'm in agreement with you. The WBO will force a rematch for this. It doesn't necessarily have to come from what had happened beforehand. It's just a good enough fight to have a rematch for anyways. I worry about the emotional scars that this is going to have now on Sandy Ryan, where they're not going to run it back in the UK. So whether they hold it in New York again or they take it over to the West Coast to LA or somewhere, she's going to have that entire fear the whole time. The whole fight week build up now is going to be at any stage she's going to get paint chucked on her or like Dad said, perhaps something worse. So it's going to be really difficult to see Sandy Ryan being emotionally stable to box as good as she has done in the past to overturn that first result. But I'm all for watching that fight again, and another brilliant advertisement for the women's game.
I don't think for 1 second, if Sandy Ryan fights in the US again, which she's gonna, I don't think for 1 second Matchroom allow her to walk from a hotel to a venue without their own security being with her going forward.
And I think that's probably the thing Matchroom will rue in the aftermath of this is why was their presence not slightly better? I get it was a top-ranked show. They won the purses. It was their cards. That's fine. But at the same time, Matchroom have to be responsible for their own fighters as well. So I can't say they're completely in the clear here from all of this as well. They should have had... Eddie had his own show in the UK. That's fine. But Frank could have been out there. There's so many different faces who could have been out there representing Matchroom. So you've got to look at it from that side as well. And I'm sure Bob Arum will make that case in the coming days.
Håkan, we've had two different views there. Tell me what you thought.
Before the fight itself, I don't understand why Matchroom didn't have the fight. Sandy must have been paid loads of money from Top Rank to have the fight on Michaela Mayer's backyard to defend the title. It wasn't any purse bids or so, something like that they lost the purse bid. So I'm questioning that Matchroom didn't want to have the fight in the UK and pay Sandy and Michaela enough money to have the fight in the UK.
That's interesting, isn't it? I thought it was a purse bid situation as well. Are you saying that it wasn't?
No. It was very quick. I saw Chris Mannix posted a couple of days before the announcement that the fight will be in New York at a small room at the MSG before any news from like rumors of where it will be. So, and then just a couple of days it was announced. So it wasn't that perfect.
This is not something Matchroom shy away from. They're quite happy to have their fighters go onto other platforms, especially when it's a fighter they truly believe is going to come away with the victory, which I'm sure they did with Sandy Ryan. You know, they've got all the faith in her, as long as, just like a lot of fight fans in the UK did. I was one of them, you know, and by all accounts, it was really, really close. So, yeah, let's run it back, lads. Let's have it again. And if the WBO don't do it, then questions need to be asked. And to be honest,
it's the WBO order immediate rematch. It should be purse bid, and I think that Matchroom should purse high to get the fight in the UK now. It's
not likely to be purse bid to me. Do you know what generally happens with these sort of things is if there's a rematch clause in the contract, the likelihood is the person that wins the fight generally Don't always happen, but the person that wins the fight generally gets the advantage.
Top
Being
rank.
on
Sorry, go on.
Being on a top ranked show, it's going to be in the States. There's no way Top Rank could bring in their champion over to the UK to fight an English fighter. It's not happening. Yeah. So let's, fingers crossed, the WBO do the right thing, and the fingers crossed Top Rank do the right thing and push for that as well. And if Michaela Mayer has anything about her, which I think she does, she'd want that straight away. Because, you know, we're talking more about what happened to Sandy Ryan than we are necessarily about Michaela Mayer's tactics and fight. At the end of the day, you got to give her credit. You know, she's taken that title, close as it was. She's taken that title away from Sandy Ryan in only a second fight at welter. So props to her. So let's just hope that happens. Okay, moving on, boys.
It wasn't near sold out either, and I think that the tickets was too pricey to be in the US. So with $400+ for seats behind ringside.
Crazy.
Yeah, crazy. So I watched the ticket sales just a day before the fight, and it was loads of tickets left at the smaller room.
Okay, the other fight that was happening in the States over the weekend was for Alicia Baumgardner's undisputed belts against Delphine Persoon. This fight, lads, ended in a no contest after Delphine Persoon got a cut from a clash of heads. Accidental clash of heads in round 4. Didn't go far enough for it to go to judges' scorecards. So it's classed as a no contest. So that, I guess, once Delphine Persoon gets that cup fixed and it's healed, I'm sure that fight will happen again. Moving swiftly on to one of the two shows on Friday night. Channel 5, Wasserman Boxing down at York Hall, the very, very famous York Hall. We'll go straight to the headline fight. Charlie Edwards against Thomas Asomba. Håkan, I don't know if you've got a chance to view this fight back, seeing as though you was at the fight show in Sheffield, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah, beforehand the fight, I had a feeling that Charlie Edwards was too good for Asomba, and I thought it would be a clear points win for Charlie Edwards. I haven't watched the fight, but I think it was a clear points win for Charlie Edwards.
Harrison, very, very strange narrative. You've got two brothers. One's challenging for a European title, and his other brothers stood in the opposite corner cheering for his opponent. Bizarre, right?
Yeah, one's a nutcase and the other one was boxing. I think Channel 5 did an excellent job creating the narrative. Actually, it was quite fun to watch on Friday night. They did an excellent job, I thought, with the build up and the commotion. It's rare. I mean, I can't recall definitely in the UK that's ever happened, where you've had instances like that before. I don't know. It was strange. Had it been like a really high competitive fight, now I know it was for the European title, but like if we're talking a good 50-50 here, then it would have made the narrative really even more interesting. But I don't even know myself how much belief Sonny Edwards had that Thomas Asomba was good enough to beat Charlie Edwards. And that is essentially just how the fight played out, that Charlie was just way too good for him. I thought, actually, probably the best Charlie's boxed in quite a few years, I thought, personally. I thought the cards were a bit closer than they were giving Charlie Edwards credit for. And yeah, the narrative aside, he boxed very, very well. He was time technical. I've said this for a while. I don't think he carries a lot of power around those weight. He is very much a distance boxer, but his engine is sharp. He's a very, very slick, technical, really just a good boxer, to be fair. Asomba tried, he gave it a go. Not really anything that I can take out of that. The narrative was interesting. The fight was okay. Wasn't anything that you're going to watch back in a hurry, but Sonny Edwards did what he had to do and picks up a nice European title.
Gaz, did Charlie have the bit between his teeth, having his brother in the opposite corner?
Mate, I just think it were it was just all for show. I don't think there were any animosity between Sonny and Charlie. Charlie were just far too good, mate, for Thomas. Simple as that. I think it weren't as wide as what it was given, like Harrison said, but you know, he won it clear. He won it, you know, clearly. It was just too good. Yeah, and I thought he boxed well. He's calling for Butler, I think he were after the fight as well. Charlie. There was talk of Japan as well, wanting to try and get world titles in Japan. I mean, that's a bit of a I don't envy him on that.
I've heard the champions that way.
You what, mate?
I've heard the world champion's quite good at super bantamweight.
Yeah, I've heard he's all right, you know. But yeah, it's you know, listen, good luck to Charlie, good luck to him. I mean, I wish him well. So we'll see. But yeah, it was just routine for me. Charlie just did what Charlie does. Uncomfortable.
Okay. Moving swiftly on, taking a little pathway up the M1 to Sheffield to the Cannon Medical Arena GBM show. In my opinion, lads, this was the best card of the weekend in the UK. I thought it was quite stacked. So let's go through some of the undercard. We'll start with Maxi Hughes. He was in against, I got this right on Thursday. I'm going to get it wrong now. Estanios Antonis, I think it was pronounced, something along them lines.
Close.
I was a little bit shocked at how this fight played out. I've got to be honest. I thought Maxi struggled a little bit at times. Håkan, you was in the arena. You know what I'd like to find out from you, mate, because I didn't get to see much of the very start of the evening, so I didn't get to see what the other arena was set out for both nights. How much did it differ from the Friday night to the Saturday night?
It wasn't so much difference the setting from GBM to Matchroom. They have the same seats, and Matchroom didn't have own shares after the GBM, so they didn't change anything at all. The only change the Matchroom had that at ringside you didn't get any wristband and couldn't get outside if you're smoking. That was the only change between GBM and Matchroom, as I see it.
Obvious things like promotional banners, promotional ring canvas, things like that. But everything else, obviously, I think Daz said it. They're both under DAZN as the broadcaster, so yeah, it was easy to kind of do this as a two promoters at one venue in 2 nights kind of situation.
And I felt it was very strange that Matchroom had the weigh in the middle of the GBM show.
Yeah, we'll talk about. We'll come on to that, mate. When we talk about the Matchroom show, we'll come on to that.
Well, I mean, I know we're going to talk about it in a bit, but it apparently it was just a ceremonial weigh-in, because I took a bit of thing with that, thinking, what? They're making them weigh in at 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a ceremonial weigh-in. They weighed in earlier on, apparently.
Yeah, it was. I was told that the weigh-in was at 1 p.m. So it was a ceremonial weigh-in at 7.
Don't really understand the point of doing that. I mean, surely it wasn't to promote the fact that they got the show on the next night. Every man and his dog that's a boxing fan knew that was the case. I mean, whether it was to show a bit of united front for DAZN, and the fact that all these promoters are playing nicely with each other, and you got Eddie and Izzy doing interviews ringside during the nights, and it all looked friendly and all that. So maybe it was just that. But Håkan, Maxi Hughes, obviously, we've all seen what happened against Kambosos and the fact that he got absolutely robbed. And then he had a very, very difficult night, didn't he, last time out against an absolute world beater. So Zepeda is going to go on and do massive things, right? So you can't really use that as a yardstick for where Max is at. But last night's fight, you probably can. Break down how you think he looks, please.
I was shocked. Maxi did struggle a lot in the earlier rounds. I thought that Maxi would take Antonas out early. He got him in the end, but I thought he struggled a lot in the first four rounds.
Daz, what was your thoughts on Maxi? What do you think he's got left?
Judging by that, mate, not a lot. Listen, let's not dress it up. That was an Hail Mary shot. It were almost eyes down, throw that right hand. The Greek guy was prepared to stand with him and got caught. I'm not quite sure how scores were at the time. I'd have been quite interested to see. But listen, he got the job done. But moving forward, mate, I don't think there's much there. I don't think he's getting anywhere near world level again, to be honest. And such a shame because Max is such a genuine kid as well.
Yeah,
such a nice lad. But I just don't see that there's any. I think I said on a chat. I mean, I can see some of these lightweights. I can see some of these being opponents for a certain Mr. Wong at some point. And listen, I wouldn't be surprised to see Maxi in with him if Wong comes through Gavin Gwynn, which I fully expect him to do. There's just a lot of good fighters, mate, and I just think as much as what Max has achieved, I think I can't see him getting back to world level. Really can't.
Harrison, you know the team really well. You know Josh really well, and his dad. So, I mean, how'd you break this down?
It's tricky because when you do take that emotion into it, and I've known that team for quite some time, it's so difficult to see nights like Friday where when you take that out and you just give your general raw emotion, you worry about fighters sometimes about what they have left to offer.
Yeah. And
after I came through watching those 6 rounds on Friday, I thought I don't want to see this anymore because I'm genuinely worried that he's close to shot now. If it's that much of a struggle coming off the back of a long lost layoff where you should be way more fired up for it than you are, to then only commit yourself to 6 rounds and just about scrape through. He was up around after 5 on the cards. So whether or not he knew that, well, obviously he didn't know that, but he can't have been sure that he'd boxed well enough to win the fight. Like Dad said, Hail Mary, that's all it was. And he did get a bit lucky. But a win's a win in certain aspects. It keeps you going.
Keeps you not to cut you off, Harrison. Just interested in your thoughts on this. Well, I said I could see him getting served up to, as an opponent for Cameron Wong. And for my personal opinion is, I mean, I like Maxi. I know you're close to the team. I like Maxi. Genuine kid. Met him a couple of times, absolute diamond of a kid. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see him go out getting beat up by a Cameron Wong, and that's no disrespect to Cameron Wong, but I don't want to see Maxi get beat up off a Cameron Wong.
I think you're right, and it's not just Cameron Vaughn for as good as he is. We're in a stage now with the lightweights domestically where there's a lot of big names coming through. Look at Josh Padley last week against Mark Chamberlain.
Yeah.
He's going to go on to big things. Mark Chamberlain's far from finished in his career, so he's got plenty left to offer. Joe Cordina's probably still going to go at lightweight for a good long time, and you would have more confidence that Cordina's going to get back in the picture than you would Maxie Hughes at this stage now, unfortunately. I just think there's too many names now in that division that are just ahead of him, both in terms of quality and time. And there is only so much that you can say. Look, he could go out and prove us wrong. We'll get onto Terry Harper in a moment, of course, and she was virtually written off. So there is opportunities for the fighters like him to come back, but it's so difficult in the current lightweight landscape to see him get anywhere near, because you've got to beat someone at that elite level to then go and fight Lomachenko or Tank or Zepeda. It's so difficult, unfortunately, and I just think time's going to win with Maxie Hughes, unfortunately.
I mean, I think it was talked about. There's even the possibility of him going in with a certain Mr. Walsh again.
Well, it makes a lot of sense now after what happened on Friday. Ryan Walsh should be banged up for that fight, you know that. But that's a good GBM headline. That if they can make that fight happen, I think they'll sell out in Sheffield again for that.
Okay,
I just don't want to see Maxie get served up. Do you know what I mean? I think he deserves a lot better than that. To be fair, just as a lot have. To be fair, a lot of fighters before have. Maxie does deserve a bit better than that.
Yeah.
Okay. Hughie Fury gets a points victory over gigantic German Christian Thun. What is he? 6'9.5". Wasn't an easy night's work for Hughie. This lad stuck in there, was very durable. But the good thing for me out of this is Hughie Fury is keeping very busy. Harrison, come to you first.
He's all right this show. Yeah.
What would you do next with Hughie?
Now is probably the time you need to let the leash go a little bit, maybe. We talked about him needing the rounds and the build-up to get himself back into the stage. Look, he is still quite young. Like we talked about last week with when he was fighting for the world titles, he was still a baby. He's only in his early 30s. But I think now is where you really need to go and take on a Fraser Clark or a Fabio Wardley or a Joe Joyce or just someone where you can status yourself now as a domestic heavyweight, because we know how good he is. And Friday was good for him, because he got in there with a decent heavyweight who came to have a right go. The thing is, when you put these kind of shows together and you're a bit lower on the card, you kind of worry that you're just punching a body in one sense. What GBM have managed to do here is smash the matchmaking. You've got to give them a lot of credit, because this German lad who's come over, who I didn't know a bloody thing about, he's given it a right good go. Like Daz said, he'd been fired up for it the entire week of the fight, and good on him. Good to see. Good rounds for Hughie Fury as well. I actually thought he boxed quite well, to be fair, at times. Again, he's far from the most exciting heavyweight as a Hughie Fury. He kind of lacks that pop of a 90s or a 2000s heavyweight that we're so used to seeing, but he does do some things very well, and there's not a lot you can really fault, to be fair. He boxed good against probably an opponent that on name value you're not getting a lot out of, but in terms of experience, it was probably the perfect fight for him. So now I want to see him fight for the British title or for a European title very soon.
Well, Ken, let's see what you got to say on this fight.
I was out a bit. I joined in the fourth or fifth round, but for me, I was at the other GBM show, and I don't think Hughie Fury is that excited to watch. I think it did well, but I wasn't impressed. It's excitement, and so that's why I went out before the fight too. I wasn't expected so much.
It's interesting you say that, mate, because I think Peter and Hughie Fury have purposely changed his style to make him more exciting. I mean, he used to be a completely back foot boxer, worked off his jab, didn't sit down on his punches, but that's completely changed. He goes for everything now. And Still boxes brilliantly, but sits down on his shots, looks for the knockout. I think his new style, it's not really new, but the style he adopts these days is a million times more exciting than it used to be. Let's say what you got to say, mate.
It's a bit more exciting, mate, his style, but it's going to get him knocked out.
You think?
It's going to get him knocked out. As soon as he steps up in class, he's going to get knocked out. Yeah, no danger, mate. He gets, Ton landed some decent shots on him, up close as well. Landed some good shots. Listen, Yui landed some good shots.
Yeah.
But to sit down on your punches and look for knockout, mate, he's not found it. He wobbled Ton at end of the first, and I thought, we could finish him in second here because there's no way in a minute he was recovered from that shot. I just think he's just going to get knocked out, mate, as soon as he steps up his opposition. And I don't like to say that because I like you, but maybe not so much off such as a Fraser Clark or or the winner of Clark Award. Probably not off them. Then we're talking, you're going up to, you're going to European level, Caballel maybe.
Joe Parker a second time?
Yeah, I mean,
Joe
could
Parker.
happen. But I think Joe's got bigger fish to fry than Yui Fury, if I'm totally honest. I can see Fury v Caballel, if I'm honest. To be fair,
yeah,
and I think Caballel knocks him out. I think Caballel stops him.
Interesting. Okay.
The trouble is, mate, you sit down on your punches, right? You get hit more. You're in range more. You're in danger zone more.
Of course.
And let's think that's not Yui's natural way of doing things. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's the biggest punching heavyweight.
No, I agree.
Yeah, it is a bit more exciting for the fans how he's fighting, but I can't see him doing anything, if I'm honest.
Okay. Moving on, Tycee Gallagher defended her super bantamweight Commonwealth title, beating Tori Ellis Willits on points. Official scorecards: 96-93. 96-94 and 97-92. Start with you, Daz. What's your feelings about the fight? Do you think the scorecards were right?
I don't care. They were awful. I'm just glad.
Okay, moving on.
Mate, honestly, I'm just glad when the first bell rang. The last bell rang. In fact, I went through a little mix of emotions. When the first bell rang, I was looking forward to this fight. And then I felt like I was all through the fight, I felt like I'd gone to Narnia or something and was living in some sort of surreal land. And then when final bell went, I felt like throwing a party, if I'm honest. This was awful, mate. Tori, listen, I'd had the... obviously Tori's had a good pedigree, and Tori looked like she'd just been dragged out at bingo hall with tactics. Rushing in. It was just crazy. Tycee, Tycee was the one who was landing the better shots by a long way, and she dropped Tori in the second, but. Do it still. I mean, it was just simple. I mean, Tycee was moaning, I'm trying to box her. Well, take half a step back then. Give yourself room. Pump that jab out. Give yourself room. If she's going to rush you, she's going to rush you off a shot or off your work. So work, half a step back, walk her onto something. It's not rocket science. Do you know what I mean? And that's all Tori was doing all fight. And she was quite dirty as well through the fight, Tori, to be fair. She, sticking head in. I mean, she was rough without really doing anything with it. It was just think the tactics from Tori, if there were any, were awful. And I thought Tyson deserved to win the rounds,
Right.
Most of them, if I'm honest. But I just think Tyson's tactics weren't great. Just some little adjustments you want to see. Listen, it's obvious she's rushing you. So either feint, step back, and then walk her onto something. Work, knowing that she's going to come through it. Step back and walk her onto something again. That's what she should have been doing for me, and it just made for a snooze fest, to be honest. Not really overly impressed with it, especially given the pre-fight build-up.
Håkan, you were in the arena. You've seen some amazing female fights in person. Do you agree with what Daz says about this one?
Yeah, I agree with that. And so it wasn't that exciting to watch. And I thought that Tyson did enough in most rounds to won the fight clearly, but it wasn't exciting to watch.
Harrison, Tyson, she's got a British belt as well, which for some reason wasn't on the line, bizarrely. Don't understand that. But do you think she's got anything in her to go levels?
Yeah, I think so. To be fair, I didn't think she did that much wrong on Friday night. She just got dragged into a bit of a hellfire, scraggy, unwatchable, unbearable fight, really. I don't really think either of the lads there are too far off. It wasn't the most exciting to watch. I thought the scorecards were way too close, personally. I think I only gave Tori Ellis one round, maybe two. And there was a 10-8 in there as well for Tyson. And I don't know, she almost boxed a little bit frustrated, to be honest, because of what was going on. There was, like I said, that there was a lot of headbutt and there was a lot of sort of tight elbows. Just one of those fights that when you're the A side, you don't want to get dragged into it too much most of the time because your technical ability should just be good enough to get you through. And I think there was a bit of a gulf in class between these two girls. It might not have seemed like that just based on those 10 rounds, but I think Tyson's got a lot more to offer, and we'll see that sort of coming over time. I suspect the British title wasn't on the line because of the differential in ranking. I can't find an official reason. The BOC won't give one, so it's a bit of a strange scenario that. But there's plenty of time and opportunity, I think, for Tyson Gallagher to become a bit of a star in British boxing, to be honest. She's only about, I think, 25, 26. She's not been a pro for that long either. So I think if she sticks around that sort of super bantam featherweight limit and doesn't go too high where the real stars are, like your Chantel Camerons and your Katie Taylors and whatnot, if she stays just below those, I think she's got a good chance of becoming a world champion in the next couple of years.
Okay, moving on. Ryan Walsh rolls back the years with a devastating first round knockout over Reese Mould. This one shocked just about everybody watching, I think. Everyone knows the class of Ryan Walsh, but no one knew what he had left. And I think it's quite clear he has plenty. Daz, you kind of warned everyone on Thursday that potentially was Ryan Walsh had a lot left. Surely you know that even that result came as a bit of a shock.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, I picked Reese to have more left. So yeah, I rate Reese as well, and I still do. But I've always rated Ryan as well, and Ryan showed. I tell you what, Ryan's a brilliant advert for living the life. He has done. He lives like a monk. He always has done. I think he says since he signed his professional contract, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. He's just a model professional. So yeah, listen, he's always been fairly heavy-handed as well. Ryan has. He's always had a decent dig on him, and he just caught Reece and never let him off the hook. He caught him with a good shot, followed it up, and then did what he needed to do. I think it's a tough rebuild for Reece, but I don't see why he can't. I mean, look at his stablemate Max. Maxi suffered losses, and look what Maxi went on to do. So I don't think it's a case of Reece can't do it. You know, he's got a massive fan base, so I think he'll always be welcome on Izzy's shows. You know, because we all know Izzy and Co like ticket sellers. But I think Reece has got you know, he's got things to offer still. I don't think it's by any means he's done. I think he put a bit of a post on after the fight, and he seemed a bit deflated. He was contemplating whether to just carry on and get into the training side of things. But I personally don't think that he needs to do that. I think he, you know, he's got something left. He just needs to rebuild, and hopefully he'll get that on GBM. He'll get to, you know, rebuild for them, and I think he can. I'm not saying he can't, but you know, it's like a nice little story with Ryan Walsh. You know, he's persevered, he's kept in the gym, and now he's looking for a big fight.
Håkan, what was the thoughts from ringside? No one was expecting the fight to finish the way it did.
It was a shock for everyone, I believe, at ringside, and Reece Mould had a lot of support at the fight, lot of support at the tire seats and they went after the Reece Mould fight. So it was a lot of people that didn't stay for the main event.
Yeah, I saw the ring announcer saying we've still got our main event to come and a great fight. Yeah. So, you know, stick around.
Yes,
maybe Reece should have been on last. You know,
yeah, maybe
he does sell an absolute load of tickets.
Yeah,
you know, it does absolute truckloads. So maybe if you want to keep the fans in, maybe you should be putting Reece on last.
Yeah, and I was in Dublin. He was at the undercard when he fought Gary Kelly, and I felt Reece Mould did very well in that fight.
Yeah, I thought Reece won that fight. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought Reece won that.
So I was shocked that after that performance on Friday. So yeah.
Sorry, Håkan. Harrison.
So going forward for Reece Mould, hopefully he did sign for GBM for this fight. So hopefully GBM get him some decent fights.
Harrison, I think Daz hit the nail on the head. Reece Mould is young enough. He's got plenty left in the tank. I don't even see this as a rebuild because for me, it's very plain and simple. He got caught with a massive shot and never recovered. It wasn't like he got beat up for 8 rounds and got stopped. You know, it was one of those. It wasn't a flash. It wasn't a flash knockdown. It was a. I think Reece made a mistake. I think he came in and tried to take Ryan's head off, and Ryan beat him to the shot, and he just didn't recover. He's going to be devastated because of the way the fight ended. But we've seen it with him already. You know, he suffered a devastating knockout against Lee Wood, and he's come back stronger.
Can't go a show without mentioning Lee Wood, can we?
Well, it's there, isn't it, mate? Anytime I can shoehorn him in, I'm going to honour.
Yeah.
But he come back from that as a stronger fighter. I think he can do the same again. He's going to be questioning himself directly after the fight and within the first 24 hours, because it's going to hurt. Because he clearly thought that he was fighting a Ryan Walsh that he had the better of. I think what Reese kind of saying in the build-up that he was going to knock Ryan Walsh out, I think that gave Ryan Walsh a bit of a extra target to make sure that didn't happen. You obviously, again, we've just said it, but again, you know the team. They're all so close, and it's going to be devastating for Reese. What would you say? I mean, tough, right?
It's very tough, and I hope that it just ends up being a bit of tongue in cheek, the comments he made about himself straight after the fight, because in my eyes, it's 3 losses and it's back-to-back losses. Okay, that's what it is officially, but if you look at the 3 names that he's lost to now, he's lost to Lee Woods, who's a former world champion. Take a shot every time you say Lee Wood on this show. He's lost to Ryan Walsh, former British champion, and Gary Cully, who, all intents and purposes, Matchroom believe they have a star on their hands with him. So it's not as if he's been blown out by some 6 and 10 journeymen in his back garden. Like, he's lost to 3 good fighters there. Yes, the Ryan Walsh knockout is going to hurt a lot because, all intents and purposes, you would have thought that Ryan Walsh was past his best from what we've seen a couple of years ago when he was British champion, which does now feel like quite a long time ago. So there is a lot of agony there, and there's a lot of angst about how much he's got left, but he's a young lad. And like we said there about how he should have been headlining the show, of course he should have been. Anyone who's going to sell that amount of tickets is going to headline a show that doesn't have an obvious main event otherwise, in my eyes. But, that's their decision, not mine. There's work to do, of course there is, but I don't want to see Reese Mull for the next 12 months sit in 6 rounders to gain a bit of confidence and then try to get back up to this level. I think he should throw himself straight back in again. I really do. I think he should look at the names around him. And like we said earlier about how stacked this lightweight division is becoming domestically now, there's so many good fights out there for him. I mean, I don't want to see a long recovery period for Reese Mull. It was a good shot. He walked into one. I think you're bang on. He was way too aggressive. It was an easy shot for Ryan Walsh to catch him with. Have that fight another 10 times, then there's probably 10 different outcomes, to be honest. But a first-round knockout's what happened on Friday night, and there's a lot of regeneration to do there. But he's far from done. And Reese Mull is another one of those characters you'll meet, and he genuinely is just all class. He really, truly is. And he's a fan fighter as well, which in this country is as important as your quality, because that arena, it filled out as quickly as he filled this in one sense. So you want to keep people like him on your cards about as long as you can, and all the best to him in the future.
Tough one, isn't it? Tough one.
It is. Yeah, no, it is. I can see why he made the comments he did immediately after the fight, because in your mind you're thinking, if I'm getting blasted out by a man who won his British title 5 years ago in 3 minutes, then what have I got left to offer at this level? But like I've just said there, that the competition is so good at the minute that anyone can make a name for themselves. Yeah. Josh Padley's the perfect example. I know I keep bringing him up, but if he can beat Mark Chamberlain, then why can't Reese Mull beat Mark Chamberlain? Or why can't Mark Chamberlain beat Ryan Walsh for a British title? Yeah. There's so much that you can do there with that division at the minute. So I hope he keeps fighting.
Okay, moving on to the headliner. Shaquille Thompson defends his IBF, European and WBO global titles in a career best performance against River Wilson Bent. This on paper looked like it was going to be Shaq's toughest opponent to date. Daz, very impressive.
Yeah, impressed. Listen, I've known Shaquille for a long time, and a really nice kid and very, very good fighter, absolute class. I was disappointed in River, if I'm honest. He promised quite a bit, and didn't seem to put up much resistance. When he was there, he did. He fired back, showed a fighting instinct, and not really the right thing to do when you've got someone like Shaq has got your ear, you don't really want to be firing back with him. Like I said, I was a bit disappointed with River. He promised quite a lot, and on paper is Shaq's best opponent, I'd say. But yeah, Shaq did what he needed to do. I know there was a bit of a thing after where Izzy said any British middleweight next. And then he sort of changed his mind and said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get Shaq the right fights. He's going to be brought through properly." I think that was before someone mentioned a certain Mr. Shiraz, to be honest. The British title was mentioned, the Brad Pauls. I would like to see that, to be fair.
Yeah,
I would like to see Shaq v Brad Pauls. I said on a post after the fight, and I stand by this, I said Shaquille is absolute class. Very, very good fighter. But Hamza Shiraz seems to be very, very special. I'd love it to be the other way around. Shaq's a local lad. I'd love it to be Shaq's the special one and Hamza's just very, very good. I just think, it's probably not the wisest idea putting him in with or trying to get that fight with Hamza at the minute. He showed, Shaq's he got very long arms. I mean, he's very good at what he does. He can punch. But let's look at it through a magnifying glass. River landed some shots. When Shaq was hunting him, he landed some shots. I know he probably wasn't worried about what was coming back, but there was one shot just before the last knockdown that seemed to stiffen Shaq a little bit, seemed to stop him in his tracks. Wasn't wobbling, wasn't, in massive trouble, but it stopped him in his tracks. And you look at things at the eye level that that Shaq's going to operate at as well. You think that shot from Shiraz is going to be probably a fight ender. He's got as long arms as Shaq, innit? I mean, he's a freak of nature, and I mean that in the most respectful way. But yeah, this is Shaq's night. But I would like to see the Brad Pauls fight, a very winnable fight for Shaq, and I'd like him to go that route, the British title route.
Right, Harrison. Every time Shaq landed, he seemed to decimate River Wilson Ben, and he's been in with top names over the years. On that performance, where do you rate Shaquille in the middleweight division?
This kid's it, Andy. That's done it for me a Friday night. As this kid's got something about him that's, you get a fighter that makes you tingle every now and then, and I think he is genuinely going to go right up there. Just before I come back to your question, I think domestically our three best divisions at the minute are the lightweights, the heavyweights, and then the middleweights. Not in that order, but that just seems to be the three divisions we've got the best depth in personally. And I feel a little bit for him at this stage in his career because, well, the good news is there's going to be so many good fights out there for him. But the problem is you've got Hamza Shiraz, who's going to be a world champion before Christmas. Kieran Conway, who's in that prize fighter thing and has really regenerated his career, which is fantastic to see. You've got Denzel Bentley on a recurrence mission. You've got Brad Pauls as the British champion. Nathan Haney's still about. You've got kids coming through as well. You've got Linus Shadofia, Jimmy Sainz, George Ladar. There's so many. It's such a brilliant division. And Friday night, if he needed a statement win, I think River Wilson Ben's the perfect name to have because, like you've said there, he's put, he gave Denny a right scrap. Okay, Shiraz, it's a name if nothing else, and it's a shame for him that there is those good names out there, but that means there's so many good fights to make. I think I'd probably have him third or fourth at the minute in Britain, which maybe that's discrediting because I really think he's fantastic. I just think that Shiraz and Conway and others are that bit better at the minute. But we'll see in time. We really will. And there's a lot to like about him. 3 rounds, just brilliant. I thought he was good. Yeah, Daz is spot on that. There was times where he did take a shot, and that is something he's going to have to really figure out, because middleweights do punch. You know, they're not small lads. They can. There's a bit of pop about them, but there's going to be perfect openings for him in this division. Like we've said, globally, it's not that strong at the minute, but we've got a good hand. And I think that if he's going to push one fighter forward for the next year, I think this is the kid that he should be pushing forward personally.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, and I think that is definitely what GBM are holding the hat on. I see Shaquille Thompson landing on a Riyadh card against Brad Pauls.
If it makes sense, the only thing is I think that's a really good British fight.
It is a really good British fight, but then again, we've got the heavyweight British fight going to Riyadh, so why not?
Yeah, no, true. It could easily end up on an undercard. It's just we're that diluted domestically for good cards at the minute that Frank Warren might want to hold 1 or 2 back and try and get Brad Pauls a sort of homecoming fight down in Cornwall. And I don't even know if there's an arena down there, but if there is, I think that could be where it lands. The thing is, Shaquille Thompson, like just thinking broadcaster-wise, Frank Warren's not going to send... Well, is Brad Pauls with Frank Warren now? I'm not too sure, but if that ends up being the situation, I don't know. I can't see Frank sending any of his fighters over to GBM.
That's another reason why I think it lands on Riyadh, because they're all.
Yeah, it could.
They're all playing happy families, aren't they?
Yeah, if Izzy's well in with Riyadh with Turkey, I'm sure that fight can be made. I hope it gets made domestically, because that's one I'd go to. I genuinely think that's an absolutely brilliant fight. So fingers crossed it happens, whether it happens in Saudi or Cornwall, who knows, but that's got to happen, hasn't it?
Well, Izzy's clearly putting everything behind Shaquille Thompson right now. Great performance, right?
Yeah, this was the third fight in a row that I have been to with Shaq Thompson at the GBM show, and I hope that Izzy keep him for GBM and step up. But I don't. I think that Izzy wants to have Shaq at the GBM in the next fight, and not have him as a away fighter. So let's see if the Brad Pauls fight will be made, but he will be the away fighter on the Frank Warren show, if it will happen, or like you suggest, at the Riyadh card.
Yeah, I mean, I think Turki Al-Sheikh would have looked at that, seen how dynamic Shaq is, and gone, he needs to be on one of our shows.
Yeah.
Because he just loves that type of fight, don't he? He loves that type of fighter. Right, moving swiftly on. Deja vu to Saturday night. Hawkeye, you were there for this one as well. Matchroom, same venue, same broadcaster. Let's go down the card a little bit. I want to go through these a little bit quicker, though, guys, if we can. I just want to touch on Galal Yafai and the decision for him to be fighting on this card when he's going to be fighting Sonny Edwards in November. I think
November 30th.
November 30th.
Cool. Yeah. 30th, yeah.
It's launch presser on Tuesday in Bern.
Right, so Hawkeye, you set off that you had a conversation with a certain person. I don't know if you want to divulge it on air or not, but what's your feeling? Why would they take that risk?
I don't understand that they took that risk. If Galal Yafai wanted to have a stay-based fight, they should have had it before the announcement of the Sonny Edwards fight. I think they should have it. In July time, not September time.
Absolutely, Gaz. This ain't tiddlywinks, is it?
No, luckily it's worked out though, hasn't it? It's it's not He's not got caught. He's not hurt his hand. Not got any injuries. So we can move on to the. He's had a little workout. So we can move on and look forward to the fight v Sonny. And listen, if that's what Galal wanted to do, then I think was this fight that he's had last night penciled in, and then they've announced the Sonny fight.
Yeah, that's right.
And he wanted to just carry on. Listen, some people would call it stupid. Some people would say that's how confident he is in himself. But either way, we're going to see the Edwards fight. There's nothing that stopped it. So it's worked out for him. Any time spent in that ring in lead up to a fight like he's going to have, he's going to be good for him. So it's worked out for him.
Harrison, anything you want to add to that?
I think it was good, to be honest. Look, we're still 2 months away from that Sonny Edwards fight, and Galal hasn't fought since March. That's quite a long layoff. If he hadn't had that fight last night, it'd have been 8 months without a fight. That's a long time for a fighter with not a lot of professional experience. All right, brilliant in the amateurs and the Olympics, but I thought it was good that he got those rounds in. To be honest, I get the risk. I get it. It could have backfired. It could have pulled an entire show in Birmingham in 2 months' time, which would have been tragic because, let's get it right, Matchroom summer and autumn schedule hasn't been great domestically, so they need the Sonny Edwards card at the back of the year. So, yeah, I understand the risk, but at the same time, I'm a fan of it. Like, we've talked so much about how fighters in the 80s and 90s would just be doing this every 2 months anyways, how the landscape has changed so much from an audience and a perspective of boxing in modern times where fighters don't do this anymore. They would just scrap this off and go ahead. Obviously, he was meant to be fighting on the Regis Prograis Jack Catterall cards. That would have been well over a month ago now if that had been originally billed. So credit to him and his team for taking the fight, and roll on November. I think it's got potential to be fight of the year domestically.
Okay, staying with you, Harrison. Very quickly, Peter McGrail stops Brad Foster in the second round with a body shot. Impressive.
Yeah, and roll on Dennis McCann as well. Peter McGrail was fantastic. Not too much that I can add, really. Brad Foster was one of them. It was kind of similar to the Ryan Walsh situation 24 hours ago. Once Walsh had won, I thought, are we going to see a little double upset here? Is Brad Foster going to do the same? But Peter McGrail is just far too good, unfortunately. Again, one with high-class amateur pedigree and big following from Liverpool. He's going to go a long way, you'd think. And yeah, just again, too good on Saturday. And that Dennis McCann fight, book it in.
Yeah, what a great fight that'd be. Does Peter McGrail got a devastating loss? A few fights back on trail now, right?
Yeah, definitely. He, that body shot, mate, was a sickener, absolute sickener. It gave me stitch just watching it. I'm a bit of a, I don't know where it's gone wrong for Brad Foster. He was talked about as, one time he was talked about as being a world champion, possible world champion at one point. And then it just seems to have, as it can in boxing, it's just, all gone wrong. But listen, he's a quality operator, Brad Foster. You can't take that away from him. But McGrail to do that, it was class, absolute class. And that shot probably does the same thing to Dennis McCann, if I'm honest. As if Peter McGrail got hit with that shot, it probably could do the same thing to him. A shot placed as perfect and timed as that is going to have a devastating effect.
Yeah.
So, listen, fantastic performance from Peter McGrail. I like watching him.
Håkan, anything you want to add to what the boys have said?
I was very impressed with Peter McGrail, and that body shot was awesome. So I watched Peter McGrail in Liverpool too in April, and this performance I was much more impressed with Peter McGrail. Okay,
moving swiftly on to the headliner. I think the majority of us predicted this wrong on Thursday.
Except for
one.
Not you though.
Not me, no. Well, what can I say? Terry Harper moves down 2 weights, 3 weights, 2 weights to become the WBO lightweight champion after beating Rhiannon Dixon on points. The points read out official scorecards 97-93, 97-93, and 96-94. Finally, we've had a bunch of scorecards that were fairly accurate. Harrison, how good was Terry Harper?
Well, first question, what's a bigger shock? 3 competent British judges or Terry Harper winning? Couldn't fucking believe they'd all got it right for once. Terry Harper was all class. She was absolutely brilliant, as was Rhiannon Dixon. You know what you need to say about this, the same way you did on Friday about Mayer and Ryan. What an advertisement for women's boxing. Just a brilliant fight. Really good and engaging and entertaining to watch. 2 girls who just gave it a good go. It's kind of hard to criticize Rhiannon Dixon, actually, because she did do a lot of stuff really well. It's just in those little 2-minute spurts, Terry Harper just found something. And I don't know how, but the thing that amazed me most, the one thing I pointed out from watching her was her ring movement was probably the best thing I seen. And to drop the best part of 2 stone to go and then be that quick on your feet and that nimble was just really good. And then we know what Terry Harper's like. When she gets up close, she will just sit there and she will scrap it out. And most of the time, she does actually come out on top and sometimes gets decisions, doesn't get them. I'm so glad that she got this one. I really am. Rhiannon Dixon will come again. I think that's an easy one to run back, to be honest, as well. Now that it seems as if Terry Harper is going to get an extension with Matchroom, so it's a very easy fight to make. Rhiannon Dixon will come again. I think she's probably naturally made to go down a weight. I don't say that about many fighters, but I don't know about her. I don't know about her punch. Do much better, to be honest, as super featherweight.
Daz,
really...
Daz, you got to give Rhiannon Dixon a lot of credit. This girl's come from white collar to winning a world title. That being said, Terry Harper looked sharp as a tack. Considering if you was to, I mean, we all said it on Thursday. I'm not going to blow my trumpet too much because I wasn't 100% confident that was going to happen. I just wanted it to.
Yeah.
For Terry's
I did, to be fair. I wanted Terry to win. You know, he's a local girl. I wanted her to win. But I just thought Rhiannon had got, Rhiannon was on the up. And Terry, listen, she's obviously done the weight right. She's obviously got down to the weight right. So, good, well done. I think there's a certain person who's not on this show tonight needs to give Terry a bit of credit as well, instead of calling her bang average, as I've known him do.
On more than one occasion.
On more than one occasion. I think she's far better than bang average. But yeah, listen, she got wobbled in the 6, and I was like, oh, God.
Yeah, she did, didn't she?
Yeah, but listen, she come through it, and yeah, listen, scorecards for me were spot on. Spot on for me. Yep. And that I was like, yeah, I'm happy with that. No controversy, no rubbish afterwards, well deserved. And how mature was Rhiannon Dixon in defeat?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, she deserves so much credit.
Absolute class. And do you know what? I love to see that. And that happened with a certain fighter of mine as well, who was very, very humble in defeat. Well, both, it happened to 2 of them. And I like to see that. Do you know what I mean? It just shows what you're about as a person, and that you'll come back and you'll rebuild and you'll come back a better fighter. You don't look for excuses. You'll address what went wrong and you'll work on it. And that's what it's about. I think we're going to see Terry in with Caroline Dubois at some point. Nah. Ra in the sidebars calls for he wants to see a fight Baumgardner in for revenge.
I won't go anywhere near that fight.
I'm not so sure. Obviously Baumgardner would have to move to lightweight.
Welcome to the show, Ra, by the way.
It's a natural fight to make. It'd have a bit of interest after Terry's performance. I'm not sure I'd like that. what do we think about v Caroline Dubois? To be fair, isn't it? That's the question I want to know your guys' answers to.
Well, see, I'm worried because Eddie and Ben aren't the best of mates at the minute. So actually seeing
The thing is, mate, I actually, funnily you should say that, to be fair, because I was talking about this at the show in Portsmouth last night with someone, and they said exactly the same thing. Eddie don't really like Ben very much at the minute, and it was like, well, maybe he might want to see one of his fighters beat Ben's then. and I said, what do you think she beat Caroline? And he went, well, yeah, that's a good point. Who knows?
Hey, real good fight, by the way, if that does happen, because it lets you know the scale that Caroline Dubois is at.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
Without being disrespectful, she's had a bit of an easy ride to get where she is now. You want to see her in with that domestic opponent to see are we dealing with a real star here?
She's shown things, but we've not really seen it against quality opposition. We're hearing, we hear that she hits very hard, but yet she's not stopped girls who she probably should be stopping. Yeah. And then Caroline counters that by saying, well, they don't come to win, they come to, survive. But when people come to win, I'll start stopping people. So listen, let's see that then. And we know Terry Harper's going to come to win, 1,000,000%.
Oh, yeah.
And Terry will probably believe she's going to win. So,
Let's bring Håkan in, boys. Håkan, you're obviously a friend of the camp. You know Terry well. You know Steffi Bull very well. What was the feeling? What was the feeling going into the fight, and what was the feeling after?
Going into the fight, I believed in Terry's team. This was her final fight of the Matchroom contract, so that was the reason why they took it. They couldn't take a stay busy fight when it was the final fight on the contract. I think Paul DeRose, that he's back, has done a lot for Terry in this camp, her former trainer. She had a good sparring with Sean O'Keefe from Ireland, who's very good, and southpaw. So I think the build-up for the camp for this fight has been very good for Terry. So I believe that Terry could win and come back. I had her winning. I had her winning the fight, and I think that Rhiannon Dixon hasn't been in a top level fight yet, even though she won the title in the last fight.
Yeah,
so
I mean
that was what I thought before the fight.
Yeah, I said it a minute ago. You've got to give props to Rhiannon Dixon. She's come from white collar, and in how many fights? 10 fights. She becomes. Is it 10 fights?
She becomes
10 fights.
10 fights. She becomes world champion. I mean, unheard of. So absolute props to her and a team. She'll come again, as we've said.
Raz, sorry, Andy. Raz just thrown in. Obviously, you've got Beatrice Ferreira as well.
That's a really good shout.
And the fights itself, I have looked at the scorecards, and one judge had it very different to the other two, round by round. So two judges had Terry winning the 4 last rounds. So two judges had a draw of the 6th.
The 6th round a draw?
No, a draw up to the 6th.
Oh, a draw up
yes.
to the 6th. Yeah, I mean, listen, she deserved to win the fight.
Yeah.
However they got there, they got it right, So
yes.
I think if we start, we can't really criticize judges too much if they judge a round different to us, as long as it's, it's the right in the end. I know.
Yeah, I agree.
If it affects the outcome of the fight, fair enough. But the right woman won. A lot of options for Terry now, and with him throwing Ferreira in, I think that's quite an easy fight to make.
It is.
Yeah, it is. And I don't think the Caroline Dubois will happen before Caroline has a title to bring.
Yeah, maybe so. Listen, I don't think she is she IBO champion still.
Yeah, she's IBO and interim WBC.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, mate, that's not half bad, to be honest, because if she's bringing just that WBC interim, that's not a bad little thing to have, to be fair. I mean, if Terry fought Caroline and beat her and then became WBC interim, as well as, I know she's WBO full champion, but that would surely put her in line stronger for a unification with a WBC champion as well.
Yeah.
I think
the WBC champion is Katie Taylor, so I think Boxer is waiting for the belt to be vacant.
Well, that's the thing, you see. So if Terry beat Caroline, then she becomes WBC interim. Katie goes, either Caroline or Terry then gets promoted to full champion.
I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. With Katie, Matchroom, Katie vacated the two titles that Matchroom could take with Ryan Dixon and Beatrice Ferreira. So I think Matchroom will make that.
I don't want to see titles get fractured and like if she, if titles get vacated, yeah, fair enough that happens. But I want to see like Rhiannon Dixon, have a comeback fight and then, maybe see what's what. But I want to see Terry Harper get what she deserves, if I'm honest. And that's big fights and big paydays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see a fight Ferreira. I want to see a fight Dubois.
I don't see Katie Taylor fighting again after Serrano. I think she retires and then the belts get split and then you'll have. What I don't want to see, guys. What I don't want to see is belts just handed to people. I want to see people number ones fighting number twos to see who the champion is, and then once all that dust settles, then we can make unifications. Mm-hmm. I expect to see Caroline Dubois fight for the vacant WBC title against whoever.
She'll be promoted, mate. She won't fight for vacant title. She'll be elevated full champion.
Yeah, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen. Is what I'm saying, Daz.
No, it will. It will though.
Probably. And if if that does happen,
well, it will, because that's what happens, and that's why Maurizio Sullivan made the big thing of coming and presenting the WBC belt to Caroline.
Yeah, well, okay,
fair enough. He knows, doesn't he?
Fair enough, right? Okay. If that's the case, right, and she's made WBC champion, well, let's hope her first defense is against the number two, because that's how it should be.
Or it's a unification. I'd be happy with that.
Well, yeah, okay, all right. But either way, these fights are all going to play out in the next year and a half to 2 years. There's some really good fights to be made at lightweight.
I'd put my house. Caroline Dubois is going to be elevated to the WBC champion full. Maurizio Sullivan wouldn't have come and gave her a belt on that stage, that platform, if he didn't know what was going to happen.
Well, okay, all right. Let's say she does. Let's say she does. Let's hope that the first defense is against, like you say, either another champion in a unification or the rightful number two in the rankings for the because she's clearly number one, sat number one. Let's hope she fights number two, and then that's the official fight. Just like you've just seen Joshua against Dubois when Dubois was handed the belt. That's made that official now. Quite happy with that now. I wasn't happy with it before the fight. It should have been for the vacant belt. I don't like fighters being handed belts without winning them in the ring. I think it cheapens the title, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, boys, that's been a fantastic show. We're an hour and a half in. I think we'll bring it to a close.
I can get just one thing here. I believe Terry Harper will vacate the WBA Super Welter title now.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, 100%, mate. It's not her weight. She's clearly shown lightweight's her weight. You know, we spoke about this and how good she looked when she was at lightweight for a couple of fights a while back. Definitely her weight. Well, guys, it's been brilliant having you on again. Harrison, Daz, Håkan, thanks for your comments. Thanks for your opinions and your reviews. This has been Last Bell Boxing, proudly sponsored by LW Liftings and S&C Travel, here on a Thursday at 7 o'clock. And as we've had this one today, regulars now on a Sunday at 6 o'clock to do the review show. Lots of content on the channel right now. Go check it out. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll let you know when everything else comes up. Cheers, boys. Thank you.
Cheers, Andy.
Good night, mate.
Cheers.